Bonjour, my name is David Devere. I'm a wine and spirits educator and world traveler. You're watching Savvy Nomad TV. This is episode 5 of tasting tiny little bottles of whiskey from a whiskey tour of the world box. Now today's whiskeys are number 9. This is Svensk. This is made in Sweden, and I'll put the QR code to their website here. This whiskey's parent company is going through bankruptcy proceedings, so you may just see a legal notice if you go to their website, but maybe that will be resolved and there will be a website for you to look at with more information. Now this website for whiskey number 10 does have a lot of information on it. This whiskey is called Indri. It's made by Piccadilly producers. Indri. I think that's how you say it. And they have an interesting process for making their whiskeys too. But let's first talk about the Swedes. Now this was, at the time it started, the only distillery in Sweden, and they decided they were going to make everything Swedish. Swedish grain, Swedish barrels, everything. And so they did. They used Swedish oak in their influence. So this, we're going to see just one influence of a type of oak, and I believe it's going to be new oak, because unless they're finding Swedish wineries, which I'm not sure there are very many of those, then they're not going to be a used oak barrel. It'll be a new oak barrel. So we'll have to think about that for a minute, and maybe we could define it while we're tasting it. Now the Indri producers here are very proud of it, and they use triple cask. So they're using 3 different influences of oak. If you're confused how oak influences a bottle or a whiskey, then check out the previous episode where I talk about Dr. Jim Swan's influence in the whiskey production in the world. Now, these guys use 3 different types of oak barrels. They use a wine barrel, a PX sherry barrel, and a bourbon barrel. Now, a wine barrel produces honey and pepper aromas in the whiskey. PX sherry, that might be a little bit confusing. PX doesn't stand for prescription, it stands for Pedro Jimenez. Yeah, it sounds like a person's name, but it's the name of a grape variety from southern Spain. And Pedro Jimenez sherries produce this really dark, sticky, sweet, incredibly intense dessert sherry. And so, consequently, if you use barrels that used to have Pedro Jimenez in them, you're going to add color and blackcurrant aroma to your whiskey. Finally, bourbon adds vanilla and coconut. So they use this, all 3 different types of casks, to influence the way the whiskey's final product is, the way it finally tastes. Okay, those are number 9 and number 10. Let's go outside and taste them, and let's see if we taste that new oak influence here in the Swedish one, and let's see what the difference is with this triple cask and how better or worse it makes it. Okay, let's go. Okay, so we are on an island in Lake Superior. We climbed up the side of this island, as we showed you.
It was scary.
Behind us is the Black Sand Beach, which is in Silver Bay. And it's actually old taconite tailings that they dumped here, but it's popular because there aren't a lot of beaches on the North Shore, certainly nothing this big, because it's just so rocky. So anyway, we thought maybe we should come out into the lake to film this episode. So that's what we've done. Okay, so our first whiskey is Svensk.
Svensk or something.
EK, Svensk EK.
Svensk.
So this is the one made with their own Swedish barrels.
Oh.
So we'll see how the Swedish oak barrels influence the whiskey, and we're trying to figure out whether or not these barrels are raw, like virgin barrels, never used. So if we get coconut and vanilla tones, maybe they are. Now this company's in bankruptcy, so we can't actually ask them how they made it.
Oh, that's too bad. That's funny that they're included in the kit if they're in bankruptcy.
Well, they just
Maybe
started.
this will bring them out of bankruptcy.
They just started.
Well,
it doesn't necessarily, kind of has a little bourbon cask to it.
happily for me, it doesn't say anything about peat. It does say, for the nose, spicy with notes of sandalwood, dried ginger, yummy, black pepper, roasted oak, and herbs. Smells like whiskey.
It's spicy. It's a bit tannic actually in the mouth. It's a drying on the palate. No, not a fan.
Ouch.
It's a little harsh. It's got a burn, heavy burn. It's not that smooth.
It hurts. Fruity undertones. Vanilla and toffee finish.
I know.
I'm getting a heartburn finish myself. Wowzers.
Wowzers.
Okay, good try, Sweden.
Okay, good try.
Ooh la la.
Next one is a contestant from India.
Oh, I'm excited. It's
Now-
got Sanskrit on the label.
They have triple cask this, and just as a
Largest independent manufacturer and seller of malt spirits in India.
as
and
a as a
foremost seller of malt
refresh,
spirits in the country.
what are the casks? Does it say?
Did you write it down there? I can't read your writing.
No. Oh yeah, wine, PX sherry. Oh yeah, that's very interesting. Woo, it's windy, and bourbon and vanilla. So
Ooh la.
bourbon is going to add vanilla and coconut. It's not bourbon vanilla. Okay, so here we go.
Bourbon casks.
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
which a lot of whiskey producers use used bourbon casks, because that oak only imparts its flavor once.
But a bourbon is a whiskey.
That new oak imparts its flavor once. Yes, bourbon is American whiskey.
So they're reusing
American.
a whiskey barrel to make more whiskey?
Most of the whiskey makers in the world use that. Most of the Scotch in the world is made using American bourbon oak whiskeys. One of the biggest owners of most of the Scotch in the world is a company called Beam Suntory, and Jim Beam is the part of the Beam, and they use all of those old barrels from the Jim Beam facility.
Well, I'm just
To
glad
finish a
they're
lot of Scotch.
reusing it, because imagine all the wood in the world that's getting cut down to make barrels.
If anything, it's a lack of wood is the problem. They don't have enough
That's my
barrel
point.
wood.
Right. So they have to keep reusing it. That's good. Nose, light in style with a rich backbone of malt whiskey, cereal notes, and a soft sweetness. Oh, I hope it's soft and sweet.
I didn't get much out of the nose.
It's a mild nose. A little bit. It's a little bit sweet or herby or something kind of interesting.
It's soft and sweet in the palate. Certainly on the finish, it's sweet. And I do get kind of an herbal flavor out of it.
Oh, they say caramelized pineapple, vanilla, black tea, raisins, and honey.
Raisins, no, but I got a very herbal characteristic at the end.
Yeah. Finish, long aftertaste of sweet, fruity flavors and a hint of spice. I enjoyed that one quite a bit more. It didn't burn afterwards, and I'm glad about that.
All right,
You wanted
so.
to share the cost.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
The first one, you wrote $59 at Total Wine,
That's the Svenska. Yep.
Svenska. And the Indri, Total Wines, 55.
So you can get both of these locally or domestically in the U.S.
Yeah.
pretty easily. Now, this will be the last episode we have in November. I mean, the end of November.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then we'll be in December with the next 7
However
episodes.
many, get ready to go faster. We're moving it
Right. Uh,
up to Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Whiskey
instead of just
Wednesdays
once a week.
and whiskey
Whiskey weekends.
whiskey weekends. So, 2 episodes a week, and we're going
In
to end
December.
on Christmas Day.
All right.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. We'll be back next week with more whiskey tastings from the wilds of Minnesota.
Yay.
Until
Till then.
then, I say a tout there and cheers.
Cheers.